Welcome to Elliott Wave Forecast.com educational video. In this video, we are going to take a look at an impulse structure. An impulse structure is a 5 waves move, usually associated with the trend. Okay, in this case here, we can see that the move from the bottom left to the upper right is unfolding into 5 waves here. We can see this 1 in bracket, 2, 3 in bracket, 4, and then 5. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 waves move. That's what we call impulse. And then from there we got correction. We got this A, B, C. It's a 3 waves. We call them zigzag, and we're going to take a look at zigzag in other videos. All right, but for now we will be focusing on the impulse. Now, Elliott wave. To understand Elliott wave properly, you need to understand that Elliott wave has different degrees, right? From the smaller degree building up to the higher degree, and then we got multiple different degrees. So in this particular case here, in this simple chart here, okay, we can see a couple of different degrees. We can see that we got another 5 waves impulse, so to speak, in this leg here. If we just focus on here from the starting point on the bottom left to this one, we also got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impulse. So this is also impulsive structure, but of a lesser degree. So we can see that these 5 waves all together makes up a wave 1 of a higher degree structure, right? So we got a wave 1 of a higher degree, and then we got a wave 2 of a higher degree, wave 3 of a higher degree. Now you can notice here that the subdivision of wave 1 of a higher degree needs to be in 5 waves. Subdivision of wave 3 in the high degree needs to be in another 5 waves impulse, and subdivision of wave 5 in the bracket needs also to be in 5 waves. So in this particular case, we can say that impulse waves subdivide into 5 waves. Okay, that's the rules. Now wave 1, 3, and 5 subwaves are themselves also impulse. So you notice here wave 1 in bracket, wave 3 in bracket, and then wave 5 in bracket should be here. This is a wave 5 in bracket. Themselves also subdivide into an impulse. So you can see that wave 1 in bracket subdivided into 5 waves, wave 3 in bracket subdivided into 5 waves, wave 5 in bracket, which is not shown, but this should be, this entire move here is wave 5 in bracket, also is subdivided into 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. All right, and then this to get all together, this 5 waves move in bracket makes up with 1 of another higher degree. So you can see waves build up higher degree waves, and that is the concept or the idea of a fractal in the Elliott wave. So you cannot have a wave in isolation, right? It needs to be able to break down into smaller waves, and it needs to be able to build up into higher degree waves, right? So again, the waves always need to be part of some other higher degree structure to be able to make sense of the whole thing here. All right, now what are some of the other rules? Wave 2, okay, in this particular case, let's take a look at wave 2 in the bracket, this degree. We're going to be focusing on the degree of this wave 2 in the bracket. Okay, so wave 2 cannot retrace more than the beginning of wave 1. So notice here, this wave 2 in the bracket, this retracement, so you can see subdivision of wave 2 and the wave 4 is in 3 waves, right? Wave 2 cannot retrace more than the beginning of wave 1, so it cannot go past below the beginning of wave 1. All right, and then wave 3 in the bracket cannot be in the shortest wave. So this wave 3 usually is the longest wave. All right, usually is the longest wave. It cannot be in the shortest wave. So that will be in the rules. Usually, so you see, normally wave 3 has an extension. Wave 4 in the bracket cannot overlap with the wave 1. So you can see this wave 4 cannot overlap with the top of the wave 1 right here. And then finally wave 5, the last wave, needs to come with momentum divergence, right? Whether you use RSI, relative strength index, or MACD, or any other momentum indicator, okay, you need to see some sort of momentum divergence when it finishes the wave 5 here at the peak. All right, now let's take a look at the Fibonacci relationship here. Wave 2, which is this one, again our focus is in the bracket here. That's the degree we are going to be talking about. The wave 2 is usually around 50% all the way to 85.4% of the wave 1. Now again, the wave 2 is just a retracement of the wave 1. So that means wave 2 cannot go below the beginning of wave 1. So in the case of a bearish impulsive move, a bearish 5 waves down, then the wave 2 cannot go above the beginning of wave 1 if this is a 5 waves down instead, right? Wave 3 is typically 161.8% of the wave 1. But it can also be 200%, 261.8%, or even more than the wave 1. So in other words, wave 3, like we talked about earlier, usually is the longest wave, the most powerful wave, and usually it is at least 161.8% of the wave 1. So if you measure the length of wave 1 and then you project it from the wave 2, then the wave 3 length should be at least, usually, typically, at least 161.8% of the wave 1. So that's what we say here. All right, so wave 3 usually is elongated or extended, and typically is around 161.8%, but it can be even more than that. The wave 4 typically is between 14.6% to 38.2% of the wave 3. So again, this is a retracement of the wave 3, and typically is between 14.6% to 38.2%. And from our point of view, ElliottWave-Forecast.com, the wave 4 cannot be more than 50% of the wave 3. Okay, because again, if it retraces so much, then that suggests that that could be a new cycle instead of a wave 4. All right, so that is a new additional sort of rules that we add, that if we start seeing wave 4 to be so deep, even though it does not overlap, but if it is so deep and reaching more than 50% of the wave 3, then you should start thinking that that is not really a wave 4, and that the move from here is only 3 waves move, if that is the case, without looking for an extension in the wave 5. Finally, wave 5 typically is equal to wave 1, or 61.8% between wave 1 and 3, or invert 123.6% to 161.8% of wave 4. So that is the external retracement. So for simplicity purpose, okay, we will use this one. This is the most simple and the most common one. Wave 5 usually is equal to wave 1. So wave 5, which is this one, this entire move from wave 4 in bracket to the peak, that this wave 5 usually is equal to the wave 1. So that's the Fibonacci relationship among the various different waves within this impulsive structure here. Now let's take a look at an example of an impulse structure here. This is the daily chart of Apple stock, and we can see right here, if we focus at the starting point here in May 2016, so let's label this as a 0, which is our starting point. Okay, so if we label this as a 0, our starting point, we can see nicely how Apple is rallying in wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and now we are in the wave 5. And notice here, subdivision is perfect. The subdivision of wave 1 is also 5 waves, is in itself impulsive. Like we said in the rules, wave 1, wave 3, and wave 5 needs to be an impulse themselves. All right, so we can see this is 5 waves, and this is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another nice impulse, and wave 4, and then now we are ending the wave 5, and it looks like we need to see more extension to the upside to finish this 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Even though Apple right now already make a new high here, so If we want to, we can label this as a wave 5, honestly, right? We can label this as completed, but distribution wise, you can see that this is too short comparatively speaking to wave 3 and wave 5, so it looks nicer if it gets a little bit more extended here. Okay, so if we see something like this, another leg higher like this, that will be ideal. That will be ending the wave 5 of the black and also in the red, and then we'll end the entire move of 5 waves from 2016 low. Alright, so Apple right here is a nice clear example of an impulsive structure. Now how about the Fibonacci relationship here? We can take a look here with 2. Okay, again, if you measure retracement, wave 2 in this case is 50% of wave 1. That's what we say. Wave 2 usually is between 50% and 85.4% of wave 1. Now how about wave 3? We say that wave 3 usually is the longest wave, okay, usually. And if we use the Fibonacci extension tools, we can see that this one is a little bit more than 161.8%. So as we say, wave 3 usually is at least 161.8% of wave 1. So the way we do it again is we measure the length of wave 1 and then we project it from the starting point of wave 2, and in this case we see that this is extended and it is more than 161.8% of the wave 1. And now we're in the process of finishing the wave 5, which is the last wave, but looks like we will see a little bit more upside before we finish the wave 5, and then from there we should correct into 3 waves, right? Because that's what the Elliott Wave rules is saying. After 5 waves you will see a 3 waves down. Now let's take a look at the RSI, the momentum. Okay, as we say, at the last in the last push to the upside, we should see RSI divergence. So we can see that the RSI is not really at the, even though we keep making a new high here in Apple, we can see that this is really the highest RSI, and then from that point you have a lower high in the RSI despite having a higher high in price. So that's what it means by momentum divergence. The momentum does not really confirm the rise in the price here, even though the price keeps rising, but the momentum is slowing down. Okay, so this is typical of the wave 5 push to the upside, where we do not have broad participation from the public, and therefore the momentum does not confirm the push in price right here. So I hope this example is clear and also help to explain about impulsive structure, and I see you guys again in other videos talking about different structures.